I know you heard me on the radio flexing. She loved the sound of my voice, it's the best thing. Daydreaming of the jazz all day. Pick up the phone late night with Larry K. I know you heard me on the radio flexing. She loved the sound of my voice, it's the best thing. Daydreaming of the jazz all day. Pick up the phone late night with Larry K. Miami Dolphins fans, Fury fam members, everybody out there, welcome to a Monday New Year therapy / dissection / autopsy report, whatever you want to call it, of the Miami Dolphins yesterday with the game on the line. Happy New Year to everybody out there. Look, yesterday with the number one seed on the line, this talk all year of a potential Super Bowl, this talk all year of this team feels different, this talk all year of this year feels different, this season feels different, these guys are different, this locker room is different, all the hype. We go into Baltimore, a team who Tua had beaten twice, a team where, despite our struggles over several decades, we had beaten. We had beaten handily. And we don't just get beaten. We get stomped. We get dragged from one end zone to the other end zone, kicked through the tunnel, dragged out into the parking lot, paraded around Baltimore Harbor, tarred and feathered, and dumped in the river. That's what happened. Out-coached, outplayed, out-quarterbacked, out-gutted, out-hearted, out-everything. Now, let's talk about a couple things. A couple things I want to talk about. Number one, every time I go onto a YouTube channel now, you have somebody pushing some agenda, right? It's either Tua's the problem. Tua sucks. Tua's the worst. Tua's crap. I told you Tua sucked, and this is Tua's problem. What are we going to do at quarterback? We can't sign Tua. We got to do something because Tua's a problem. Or you go over somewhere else, and it's, Tua's great. It's the coach is the problem. The coach is the problem. This is the coach. I've been telling you it's the coach. It's always the coach. Or this is Fangio. This is the defense. The defense sucked. I told you defense was frauds. The defense is no good. First things first, with today's show and going forward, I'm not going to blame Tua, the coach, the defense on their own. I'm blaming all of them. I'm blaming Chris Greer. I'm blaming the guys on the field. I'm blaming the quarterback. I'm blaming the coach. I'm blaming the defense. I'm blaming the coaching staff. I'm blaming everybody. Because it's everybody's absolute collapse. That's number one. Don't come to this channel thinking I'm going to push some singular agenda. This is the channel of objectivity. And by the way, we got a whole bunch of new subscribers over the last night. So thank you for everybody who subscribed. Fury Fam is in full effect. This channel will not push an agenda. This channel will not sell out for clicks. Okay? We're going to talk legitimate, logical football here. And I'll tell you what, I'm sticking around this offseason. I got some stuff I'm working on. I'm sticking around in a couple ways. But number two, I can't stand this nonsensical talk. I'm sick of it. About teams of destiny, about Super Bowl runs, about our main goal is in front of us. Our main goal is always there. Championship, Super Bowl is our goal. We're saving guys for the goal. We're resting guys for the goal. Sick of that. I hate it when the Jets fans do it. Jets fans, all offseason, we got Aaron Rodgers. Even though the team has all these other flaws, This team has all these flaws. We're going to get Aaron Rodgers and we're going to be a Super Bowl team. And then he says he's coming back for 2 more years, despite all the flaws of bringing the coaches back and all these Jets, these media personalities and all these Jets fans start just talking like it's normal again. Like, oh, next year this, next year that. No, bro. The reason I wasn't around a lot last offseason was because despite how good Tua looked under McDaniel last year, despite the promise, we once again had a collapse last season. An epic collapse. So all offseason, I wasn't really plugged in, I'll be honest with you, because to me, I was already down. I was already like, what are we going to do? What can you possibly do to rectify the same nonsense that we've been dealing with for 30 years? You bring in Jalen Ramsey, that's cool. You got hurt in training camp, okay. You bring in a couple offensive linemen, okay, sure. Change offensive line coaches, all right, fine. I didn't care because I wasn't that convinced. But then the season starts. I'm a true fan. Team looks good on paper, statistically. They look good. They're playing at a high level. You get sucked back in. You start to think about the actual logical logistics. Not a leap of faith, not blind hope, but you look at the actual records. The Buffalo Bills stumble. We have a good record. We have a chance. We have an inside track for the number 1 seed. It starts to become actually possible, logically. So I fall for it. But when you break down this team, well, Colin Cowherd's a clown. He falsely predicted the Dallas game. He's probably gloating now, gallivanting around, but he's a clown. But one thing he is right about is, yeah, we haven't won a playoff game in 23 years. So I don't want to hear about the goal being a Super Bowl. I want to hear about the goal being winning a division title, number 1. Number 2, winning a playoff game. Then start talking to me next year about winning the Super Bowl. Don't blow sunshine up my ass talking about a Super Bowl this year. Because you don't even know how to win in December, let alone win in the postseason. Now, we're going to talk about the quarterback problems. We're going to talk about the coaching problems. We're going to talk about all that. But there's also an element that can't be denied. There's an element of bad luck. Bad luck. So on top of all the deficiencies that we have, we also just have flat out bad luck. We had an absurd amount of key injuries this year that completely knocked us off kilter. And let me explain something to you if you don't already know. You can get hyped up. The NFL is going to try to hype you. The media personalities that aren't legitimate are going to try to hype you up because it's a night game that was flexed for the division title. Everybody's going to want to get you excited. But here's the truth. There are certain positions in current modern NFL football that are necessary to make deep runs. There are certain positions in the National Football League that are vital to having a complete team. You can swap out some of the other pieces with depth, but there are pieces you can't. That's quarterback, left tackle, cornerback, and pass rusher. And what's wrong with the Miami Dolphins when I just broke down those positions? We lost X. He got carted off the field with a foot injury. You know, people out here saying, oh, he gets burned anyway. Okay, bro. Yeah, he gets burned once in a while. He's not the way he was a couple years ago. But you see what happens when we don't have both started corners in there? See how bad this defense looks? Get used to it. So you lose one of your key components in X. But you lose Bradley Chubb, and Bradley Chubb goes down in garbage time. Garbage time. Why was he even out there? I don't know. He's done for the year. It just came out. He's done for the year. ACL torn. Done for the year. It's over. You have Andrew Van Ginkel, which I love that kid. I think he's going to do his best. But when all an offense has to do is prepare just for AVG, you think Melvin Ingram and Agba got something enough in the tank to cause any kind of disturbance? You're wrong. All you got to do is prepare for AVG and an older, not in his prime, Melvin Ingram, or an older, not in his prime, Agba, and you don't have a starting corner, your defense is, I'm sorry, defense ain't going to do nothing. Defense ain't scaring anybody. We're going back to the defense we had earlier in the season where they're just Swiss cheese. And you saw that yesterday. It ain't going to be as bad as yesterday, but it's going to be bad. You don't have the defense to make a run deep into the playoffs. I'm just telling you the truth. We can beat Buffalo and be the 2 seed. We could win a playoff game. That's great. I hope we do. It'd be a hell of an accomplishment. It would build a lot of momentum going into next year. But I'm telling you, we don't have the defense to make a deep run into the play. That dream is gone. Forget it. Forget it. And I'm not confident about this week in Buffalo. In Miami against Buffalo. But here's the thing. Here's what hurts more as a Dolphins fan, right? Here's a dose of reality. And I'm not going anywhere. I told you, I'm not going anywhere. See, I'm more of a logic guy. I'm more of a reason guy. I'm less of a faith guy, right? So this loss has hurt me deeply. You know, there's a lot of nonsense going on in this world with politics, current events, and I tried my best to throw myself into this season to distract me and keep me excited and happy against all the nonsense in the world. And it worked because it was such an encouraging and fun season. And I thought at least we'd go into the postseason with some positive energy and some momentum. But that is completely shattered for me now. But what it has done is it has enabled me to get back to being logical and real and rational. And if I'm going to grow this channel with you guys, and thank you for joining, thank you for staying here, thank you for being subscribers, thank you for being participants, thank you for your comments, thank you for hitting like. If you haven't done so yet, click subscribe right here. Just click subscribe. It's right under you. My monetization reapplication goes out Wednesday. We should be back in action so I can keep this channel afloat and so we can build. But something I got to give you is a hard dose of reality and a hard dose of real medicine here. NFL teams have windows based on talent, based on the salary cap. And just because you do one season does not mean the next season is going to be the same. You don't automatically start from where you left off in the NFL. And the cold, hard truth is that unless we wind up with some miraculous draft picks or miraculous recoveries or the miraculous emergence of a rookie or second-year player, next year is pretty much going to be a lost cause too. Because ACL injuries take at least a year to be fully 100% if they are ever 100% again. You got to understand that we invested draft capital in Jalen Phillips, and he was a promising young player in the pass rush. We invested money and trade value into Bradley Chubb, and Chubb is now going through his second ACL tear. He won't be back till at the earliest mid-season next year. Phillips probably won't be back until at the earliest midway through September or early October next year. So you've got to go into next year not expecting a September, October like we had this year with all the momentum and the inside track at the playoffs. You're going in with a hobbled defense. You got to just try to stay afloat, stay around 500 the beginning of next year, and pray that when these guys get back the end of next year, you click at the right time like the Ravens are doing now to magically get to the Super Bowl next year. But that's a long shot. Because here's what else is going on. You got Andrew Van Ginkel, who's a great role player, a positive, energetic figure, a good culture builder, who almost was gone this year because the Dolphins didn't want to pay him. Only came back because Vic Fangio wanted him back. Now, how much and how tough is Vic Fangio's lobby? How much do these guys going down influence Chris Grier to make a deal with Andrew Van Ginkel? We'll see. But it didn't seem like he wanted to retain him last year. You have Christian Wilkins. People could knock him all they want. He's been an integral part of our defense this year. And you saw the 1 or 2 plays that Zach Sealer went out with the shoulder stinger, that this run defense all of a sudden looked like crap. Those 2 guys are best buddies, twin towers in the trenches. And this front office doesn't look like they want to pay Wilkins or AVG. I think X is gone. Greer's been wanting to get rid of X. So now how the hell are you going to field a semblance of a decent, formidable defense without Wilkins, potentially AVG, Chubb, and Phillips to start the year? How are you going to do that? How are you going to do that? You can't do it. Now, going into this year, we already knew that inside linebacker was a weakness for us, right? You see Roquan Smith. You see what he did to us. You see what a sideline to sideline linebacker on the inside can do to you. You see what they can do in coverage as compared to a Baker and a Duke Riley. You see what they can do. We already needed one of those. But now you got to add defensive lineman, cornerback, pass rusher to the list. So you might as well flush next year. You might as well flush next year. And I got news for you. Tua's getting paid. Tua's getting paid. And here's my thing. You know, people could sit back and say, oh, you don't pay Tua. You can't pay Tua. Tua's not a championship guy. I don't care. Here's the thing. There are only so many guys in this league historically and presently that are the guy, right? Mahomes, Brady. Rodgers only got there and won 1. Peyton only won 2. Eli only won 2, and Eli wasn't even necessarily elite. These guys that turn it on at the end of the season, these guys that turn it on in the postseason, they only come along once in a while. But here's the thing. You can't get rid of upper echelon, top 10 quarterbacks just because they're not top 1 quarterbacks. You can't do that. You can't say, oh, we have a top 10 kid in Tua, so we're going to get rid of him because he can't get it done in December. You can't do that. That's not going to happen. And it shouldn't happen. But the reality is, once you pay a guy like Tua, you significantly affect your cap space to pay the players around him. And make no mistake, Tua needs really good players around him to be successful. So once you pay Tua, after next year, guys come off their rookie deals, these team-friendly contracts on the front end start wearing off. You can't have a team like this anymore. So you're not going to want to hear this. And I could play up the media hype and the fan nonsense and give you something to cheer about that's not there, but I'm not gonna. That's not why you're here, right? The truth is that this iteration of the Miami Dolphins is starting to remind me a hell of a lot of the 90s Dolphins with Marino, the early 2000s Dolphins with a great defense, Hall of Fame guys in the defense, who never quite got it done in the postseason. Because if you look up and down this roster, I see guys who are great regular season players. I see guys who are great at getting winning seasons sufficient to get us into the postseason every year. I see guys that'll beat our division rivals like the Jets and these other teams here and there. But I don't see a team built to win NFL championships, Super Bowl or AFC championships. And Young Jay makes a good point, which is exactly where I was getting back to. Right where I was getting back to. It's not just Tua. It's the team. The team isn't comprised of guys who show up in the biggest moments. Tyreek Tyreek dropped an easy textbook touchdown pass yesterday, which was a perfect pass from Tua Tagovailoa. Same thing. He dropped it. He's done this before. He dropped a pass against Dallas. That was a good pass. I don't care if he had to turn around or whatever. Waddle caught the next pass. It was a dime. Tyreek dropped it. Now it's fine. People have drops. I understand that, but not when you're getting paid $30 million a year and your only job is to catch the ball. None of us get paid even a fraction of a cent of that to do our day jobs. And I'm sure we do them pretty efficiently. Then you have Tua, who threw an excellent pass to Tyreek, which he dropped, threw an absolute dime to Chase Claypool in the end zone, which he dropped, threw a lot of other really nice passes, made some nice reads from the pocket and adjusted and threw the ball. But then who also threw 2 boneheaded interceptions and threw some really bad duck passes, including one way over Tyreek's head that got him hurt again. What is this thing McDaniel and Tua do right before the half every time where they think they're always going to be ultra aggressive right before the half? Why didn't we wait for the 2-minute warning? What was the big deal? He rushes a play before the 2-minute warning, throws a pick. We're only down 3 touchdowns in the third quarter. Sealer forces a fumble. Momentum could change. And Tua comes right back and throws another pick. Although it wasn't all Tua's fault, but he was a big part of it. It wasn't all Tyreek's fault, but he was a big part of it. Everybody takes a hand in this loss. Everybody takes a hand in this loss. And you got people in here, Willow and these other guys, one loss and the fans think it's the end of the world. Rax, if you would have told me the Dolphins were division title, I would take it. Bro, if you would have taken it, then you're not looking at how talented this team is. Okay? At the start of the season. And if you think that this bodes well for the future, you're not paying attention to what I just said about Bradley Chubb's ACL injury. You're not paying attention to what happens when X goes down. You think this team is going back into Baltimore and winning? What's wrong with you? If this was just a loss, okay, fine. We don't get the 1 seed. Most people don't expect us to win in Baltimore. Even if we took a hard L, we lost by the same score, but we got out without injuries, you wouldn't see me talking this way. But those injuries kill us. Not just this year, but next year. You're not paying attention if you don't realize that. This isn't the Sunshine and Rainbows channel. Am I going to be rooting for us to beat the Bills? Let's face it, the Bills haven't played so great the last couple weeks. They've beaten inferior teams, but they've barely made it out. We have a chance to beat the Bills at home. But here's the thing. That defense is not going to be stopping Josh Allen and Diggs and Cook without X, without Chubb, without Phillips. So we better match them point for point on the offensive side of the ball, and we better torch them at home. In order to do that, Tyreek Hill and Tua Tagovailoa have to step up for once in a big game and take hold of the game. And I haven't seen either one of them do that yet. Now, Baltimore is a team of destiny. So they've already been to the playoffs. They've already had the 1 seed and lost it. They've already lost in the playoffs multiple times. They've already been those contenders every year where they're never quite over the hump. We can be the Baltimore Ravens in 2 years, 3 years. But it's going to mean that we have a season where we get lucky and don't have as many injuries. And I know the Ravens have had injuries this year, by the way. I got news for you. The Ravens have injuries too. But we have to build up depth. And we've got to experience a couple playoff wins and heartbreaks first. Can it happen? Can it happen over the next 10 years of Tua's career? Yeah. Will it happen? I don't know. And the more I look at this team year in and year out, the more I think no. Because the guys you have this year that are superstars, Tyreek Hill, Tua, they're not coming through in the biggest moments now. So what makes you think in a couple years, when we don't even have all those players because the salary cap's going to haunt us and these guys are aging out of their primes, that all of a sudden they're going to have that clutch edge? You got to hope that a guy like Chris Greer continues to draft well, because Devon Achane is a beast. He had over 100 yards yesterday rushing. But you better hit on almost every draft pick, because I got news for you. We also don't have a 3rd and 4th round draft pick this year. So how the hell are we going to fill these defensive and offensive line issues? We don't even have enough draft picks or money. We don't have enough money to sign our own guys, let alone go out and get other guys. So how the hell do you think we're going to take a step up next year? This was the year to make some serious noise. And it was a combination of lack of clutch play, not great coaching, and bad luck with injuries that sunk us. And it sucks. For these players, yeah, Tyreek, he goes out and drops a ball. Okay, he still gets to go home to his mansion, his podcasts, his supermodel wife. He gets the whole offseason to go work out and do better. You know, what about the fans? We spend savings to go to one game. If we're lucky, we can get to a game. We don't have all that. This thing ends. It's just dreary winter for us in the north. Down in Florida, at least you got nice weather. But it's devastating to the fans. Yeah, Tyreek's a beast. No one's saying he's not. Tua's a great quarterback in the regular season. No one's saying they're not. But are they Super Bowl caliber guys? Not when you drop wide open passes in the end zone. Not when you throw ridiculous picks after huge turnovers by your defense. Not when you go 22 of 38 for 237 yards, 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. To Tua's credit, he should have had 4 touchdowns. But Lamar only threw 21 passes, 18 completions for 321 yards and 5 touchdowns. That's your MVP. That's your MVP. So, I don't know what else to say. But McDaniel, it seems like an ongoing thing with McDaniel, where in the biggest games against the best coaches, he struggles. I actually liked McDaniel's game plan coming out of the gate. Looked like he was moving the ball easily on this team. This defense looked like it had no answers for us early in the game. But as soon as you drop a touchdown, and as soon as your quarterback throws some bad picks, and your defense starts stinking, putting pressure on the offense, it falls apart. And I will never understand Mike McDaniel's ridiculous tendency to throw that fade route in the end zone on pivotal 4th down and 3rd down plays. I'll never understand him doing it on going for 2 plays. I'll never understand. Look, it's fine to be aggressive at the end of the half if you think you have a good drive in you and you think you have good plays, you like the way the game's going and you think you can get points. But when he went for it, when he tried to get aggressive against the Jets on Black Friday in a hostile environment, up 10-0, we're lucky we got lucky with Javon Holland returning that pick 6, because that was a terrible idea. And it cost him. And I called it before he did. I was in the building. I said he's going to try to get aggressive. The Jets are going to get a turnover, pick 6. Watch. Then you do it again, but you can't wait for the 2-minute warning. You have to rush the play so that most of your offense doesn't even know what's happening. And you force the play for the 2-minute warning, and then your quarterback forces a pass that kills all momentum. That's on the coach and the quarterback. It's the quarterback's fault, but he's got a coach. Why isn't the coach correcting that same behavior that we've seen time and time again from Tua at the end of halves? Why don't you know when to dial it up before the half and when to dial it back before the half? Or maybe just dial it back before the 2-minute warning. That's on coaching. Why do you have your best players in the game going against backups with 4 minutes left in the game, losing by 30, when you have the game of the decade next week against the Buffalo Bills? You have Bradley Chubb in the game. You already lost X. You have Bradley Chubb in the game, and he is done for the year and done for next year. Not just this year, next year. This is the end of the year. We're in 2024 already, and he just got the ACL tear yesterday, just confirmed it January 1st, 2024. So his long rehab and surgery is a 2024 thing, not a 2023 thing. He ain't coming back, bro. Not for next year. Why did McDaniel have him in? Why was Tua in? And by the way, why is Tua in the game, number one? And number two, why is he running for a first down and then sliding short of it anyway, and now he busted his shoulder? Now, I know Tua's out there saying, oh, it's just a little sore, I feel okay, and that's all good and dandy, but he hurt his shoulder. And it's going to, watch, next 2 weeks, if he's a little off his game, it's going to be because of that injured shoulder. He's going to play. He's going to play through it, but it's going to throw him off. That was a stupid play. He shouldn't even been in the game either. He should have came out, let alone running the ball. What are you doing? Running the ball. Ridiculous. If you're in here, hit subscribe. Join Fury Fam. Click subscribe right here. It's right here. Just click that subscribe button for a millisecond. Join the Fury Fam. Click subscribe. We're talking real stuff in here. Click subscribe if you're in here. Click like, click subscribe. But this is where we're at. That's it. And now the guys we've invested so much in, the guys that we've invested so much into, Tua, he's going to get paid, but he hasn't gotten it done in the biggest moments. He's a good quarterback. Again, you got to pay him. That's the way the NFL is. You can't let a top 10 quarterback go just because he's not Patrick Mahomes or Tom Brady. The Cowboys paid Dak. The Giants paid Daniel Jones. I mean, you have to pay him. But then you invested a bunch of money and trade capital into Bradley Chubb. Now he's out for the foreseeable future, this season and most of next season. Jalen Phillips, no fault of anybody's. These guys are great players. They're great warriors. They're great people. They're great players. I understand it's just bad luck. But it's not bad luck when McDaniel's playing a guy when the game's over. The guys that we've invested all these things into, they're not playing. So what are you going to do when you don't have the money and capital to go out and plug those holes? The answer is you ride it out, baby. We're riding this thing out. There's no way out of it. So you could pontificate all you want about we should let Tua walk. We should get rid of this guy. It ain't happening. We're running with this team. I'm just letting you know the tough pill to swallow is I don't think it's going to go very far. We are going to have to get very lucky with draft picks to rebuild and retool this thing for a couple years from now to make a second run. That's it. Got Will O in here. Will O, I don't know what you're getting at, bro. What's your damage? Can't accept failures or whatever, be a fan, not a GM. What are you talking about? What are you talking about? What are you supposed to sit there and play, say, please, sir, I'd like some more and just eat it all day? That's the way you live your life? Hit me again, Dolphins. Let me deal with it. I'm not going to talk about it. I'm not going to voice my frustrations. What kind of existence is that? You're just the type of dude who wants to have sunshine blown up your butt. What's going to happen next week? We get beat again. What are you going to do then? What are you talking about? You know, we beat the Cowboys, and we can't We can't build anything up. And you're right, Spin. You're right. We don't have to pay right away. We have the 5th-year option with Tua. 5th-year option is fine. We could exercise the 5th-year option. But we're going into next year without our top 2 pass rushers and lacking probably other pieces on defense since we're not going to be able to bring back all these guys. So now you got that year. You got to hope we peak at the right time. We got to peak at the right time next year because we're going to just be surviving early in the year. Now, you remember, if we win Sunday, we're going to have a first-place schedule next year. If we lose, we're going to have a second-place schedule next year. So we're going to have a tough schedule next year. And you're going in without a bunch of defensive pieces. And when Phillips and Chubb come back, there's no guarantee they're even the same players anymore. They don't have that same explosiveness. And that's a problem. So that's 1 year where you just got to hope you peak at the end of the year. And if not, that's another year down the tube. So now you're on to 2025. Now you maybe have 1 or 2 more years of that's it. That's it. By manipulating the cap and keeping guys in their prime. Eventually, some of these guys are going to fall out of their prime. And I hear about if Wilkins doesn't show up, that's all well and good. Fine, let him walk. That's fine. Who are you getting to replace him? Because, yeah, you're right. Doesn't show up. He's just like everybody else on this team. He doesn't show up in the big games. Tyreek doesn't show up. Tua doesn't show up. So, who cares? So he doesn't show up either. Okay, great. He doesn't show up either. But now you're losing that regular season productivity. We wouldn't be where we are without Wilkins or Tua or Tyreek. None of them show up when it counts. But if you get rid of any of them, we're not even going to be in this position. That's what I'm trying to get through to people. This isn't a team where I'm predicting we go 0-17 next year. This isn't a team I think is going to be 4th place in the AFC East. This is a team that's going to be contending for a postseason spot. I just don't think they can get over the hump based on what we've seen. No one shows up in big games. The coach doesn't show up in big games. You get your doors blown off when the 1 seed is on the line. All this nonsense, I've been telling you. People like Big O, they're always talking, Lamar's not a real quarterback. I'm not worried about him. He's not a real quarterback. He doesn't throw. He's a running back. He's not a real quarterback. He's not a real quarterback. Tua is a real quarterback. Oh, it's all McDaniel's fault. Tua's great. You have your quarterback. You don't have your coach. These dudes are playing games, bro. Lamar schooled us. Lamar barely ran and threw the ball all over us. Okay? And I can't even be mad that they chose Tua. I wasn't the biggest Tua guy when they picked him, but he was the one available. He's a pretty good quarterback. You have Joe Burrow, who wills his crappy offensive line all the way to the Super Bowl a few years ago. Tua's never going to do that. But Burrow's hurt all the time, too. You got no way out of it. I can't blame him about Tua. Tua is a good quarterback. He's not a great quarterback yet. He's a good quarterback. I agree, Cosa Nostra. He has an awesome offensive line. But it wasn't like Tua was under constant pressure. Tua made some bonehead throws and decisions yesterday, even when he wasn't under pressure. He also threw some dimes that our guys dropped. Either way, it was a team failure. Either way, this team can't seem to get out of its own way and get over the hump. But even worse than the team and their failures playing are the bad luck that has befallen this franchise this year. The injuries have been relentless. The injuries have decimated this team. And I just don't know how you're going to make any kind of run this year or early next year with these injuries. I just don't see how it's possible. And I'm sick and tired of it. I'm sick and tired of it. Just sick and tired of it. How long? How long? How many years do we have to go through the same crap every single year? How long? Coaching, that's okay early, but it's all smoke and mirrors against the biggest teams who punch you in the mouth. Great quarterback play statistically all season, but not rising with the tide and pulling all the ships with you in the biggest games. Superstar, big mouth, fast and flashy wide receivers that drop wide open touchdown passes on December 31st with the number 1 seed on the line against Baltimore. Players with the most promise ever ascending at their respective positions and then having catastrophic season-ending injuries at the worst times. This franchise is every bit as cursed as every other bad franchise in this league. We are doomed to mediocrity. And I don't necessarily have a solution for it. Because you can't get out of this iteration of the team. You're already here. You can draft a linebacker on the inside, sure, but now you don't have any outside linebackers. Guys are hurt. May never come back to full strength. You still need a corner. Because apparently the rookie didn't work out. X is gone. You need a defensive lineman. You're already not very deep on the defensive line. Now Wilkins is probably going to walk. Who's on the defensive line? You think Armstead's staying healthy? How much longer are we going to ride Armstead as the left tackle? How much longer are you going to ride Armstead as the left tackle? Awesome guy, great player. Look at his injury history. These guys aren't going to get you to the Super Bowl, man. If all you want is fun regular seasons, if all you want is to get into the postseason, you're good. If you're expecting something much bigger than that, you might be waiting forever. Now, the fact is that plain and simple, every team, unless you're upper echelon, and I don't even know how these teams did it. You know, Tampa did it when they got Brady. Denver did it when they got Peyton. They're just built to make a run where even before the season starts, they know they're like probably going to get to the Super Bowl. That's so rare, it's ridiculous. Your best bet and the only way to even have any success in this league is to just have a pretty decent regular season team perennially, year in and year out, where you're always in the postseason or have a chance to get in the postseason. Because anything can happen in the postseason. I'm not talking about this year, because you lose your 2 top pass rushers and your corner, you're not making a deep run in the postseason this year. Unless, hey, some miracle happens. Maybe Smith comes up and plays lights out in X's place. Maybe Apple turns on some gear we don't know about. Maybe Agba comes on a revenge tour. It could happen. I hope it happens. If you win next week against Buffalo, you're the 2 seed. Got at least 1 home game, probably 2 home games. Definitely 2 home games. You're the 2 seed. Then you never know. But you got to win that. You got to win next week, and that's going to be tough. If you don't win next week, I mean, I don't think you even have a shot at it. And I don't think you're going to the Super Bowl this year with those injuries, no matter what. But the reality is, you've got to put yourself in a position where you're a perennial regular season contender and you can get into the postseason perennially, year in and year out. And once you do that, then there could be a year where the stars align for you, where another team's down or another team has a catastrophic injury, and you stay relatively healthy and you click on all cylinders at the right time, and then you can make a playoff run, a Super Bowl run one of those years. Look at the Baltimore Ravens. They are that team. They're perennial contenders. They're always near the top of their division. They have up years, down years. They either got the 1 seed in 2019 and still lost, or they find a way in with the wild card. They get that playoff experience. And now this year, all things broke their way. The Chiefs are on a down year. Burrow gets hurt. The Steelers are down. Miami comes in banged up. You clean Miami's clock. You're playing at a very high level. Lamar Jackson finally puts all his tools together with throwing the ball. And then you can make your run when everything clicks. That's what this team's going to be looking to do. But don't start any season telling me that this is a Super Bowl team, or we're going for the main goal, or we're saving our energy for the main goal, and all this other crap, because we're not even close to there. And the way this team's going to be constructed with Tyreek Hill, with the defense, with Tua, is great regular season players consistently putting themselves in position to get into the postseason, but never a shoo-in necessarily for a championship run until all things fall their way. That's it. Yeah, Tua threw some dimes that were dropped, and then he threw some terrible passes. That's why it's everybody. I haven't seen anybody on this team that is capable of is executing at an extremely high level in the highest pressure games. Jalen Ramsey, when he first came back, he was like a bat out of hell. I mean, he saved the Oakland game, Las Vegas game for us. But I didn't see him yesterday. Saw him get beat a couple times yesterday. Saw him miss a tackle yesterday. Saw him get in a fight at the end of the game yesterday out of his own frustration because he was getting burned and the whole team was getting burned. Christian Wilkins, awesome all year, fun with his dances, with his energy, getting sacks, clogging up the middle. Biggest game, invisible. Our best, I wouldn't say our best. Our biggest players that shine in the biggest moments are the guys that are not our superstars, and that's a problem. AVG goes out there and shines in high-pressure situations. Achane goes out there and shines in high-pressure situations. He had over 100 yards. Eichenberg, for all the crap he takes, hurts his calf, goes back in, does pretty decent. Imagine. Jack Sealer gets a huge fumble recovery, causes a fumble, gets a huge fumble. Imagine if our superstars showed up with the same intensity as our depth players and unsung heroes showed up. The difference between those great teams and teams that look good but don't quite make it the distance are their best players show up at the toughest times and shine. Our depth guys are doing it, but our superstars are not. You cannot have Tyreek Hill drop a wide open touchdown pass. It's indicative of the entire season. And you're right, Card Fins. Durham Smythe showed up. Where was Tyreek? I know Tyreek is banged up. Where was Tua at least not throwing 2 terrible picks? Hit subscribe if you're in here. Hit subscribe, join Fury Fam. This is a logical channel. We are going to keep it real here. Through the offseason, through the playoffs, through everything. We're going to keep it real here. We're going to give you real talk. Not positive, not negative, just real. But you cannot have that happen and expect to win Super Bowls. Look at the Ravens. Flowers shows up. Jackson shows up. You want to stop Jackson from running? He's going to throw it all over you all day. Their defense, Roquan Smith shows up. Look who showed up for them. It was their superstars and it was their role players. Justice Hill showed up. These guys show up, their whole team, the guys filling in for injured guys and the superstars pick up the slack of the guys that are injured. Those are teams that make deep playoff runs. Those are teams that make it to the Super Bowl. The teams like ours who struggle to have their superstars show up in the biggest moments, they look great all regular season. They look great on the stat sheet. They look great in the record books. But they don't get rings. And we've seen it time and time again. Especially with this team. You know, one of the things I knocked the Jets about is, Aaron Rodgers. I think he's going to solve all your problems. The guy's only been to one Super Bowl, let alone win. He's won one, been to one. That's it. Why is he going to solve all your problems? There are guys who have not been to any, guys who have never won. Matt Ryan. The list goes on forever. Great regular season players. We want to make fun of Josh Allen not being clutch in the postseason? What are we if he's not clutch in the postseason? What the hell are we? Because we're a level below that. It's the whole franchise. And like I said, it's bad luck, but it's also lack of superstar players elevating themselves in the craziest minutes that are needed. It's also coaching. It's tough. It's tough. We better win. Look, and what's even tougher about this, and this is why it's me being loud, I'm not like these channels, like I said, I'm not going to sit here and just blame the coach, just blame the quarterback, just blame the defense. Because when you do that, you're scapegoating and you're not really coming up with a solution because it's all BS. You're just lying. People like to think. That's one thing about sports fans especially, right? Sports fans love to think that there's one simple solution and one easy fix because even if deep down they know it's not true, sports fans like to have this blind faith. Sports fans like to have some hope. So if you tell a sports fan that the quarterback's the problem, then they think, well, all we got to do is get a new quarterback. It not only gives them hope that if they got a new quarterback, they would somehow be better, but it also gives them something to personify and lash out at and be angry at all the time to take their frustrations out on one person. So they take it out on the quarterback. If you love the quarterback, then you have to find, it's the coach. And then they can direct their attention and anger at the coach all the time and never have to call the quarterback or anybody else into question. And they can just rail against the coach and hope that if they fire the coach, they'll have a chance, or at least scream and yell that the coach is the problem all the time. If it's the defense, it's the same thing. You can lash out at the defense and scream and yell about the defense, and you can negate and defer and divert any attention or criticism from the quarterback or the coach and put it on the defense. But I can't do that. I won't do that because it's nonsense. And the truth is, as much as I'd like to criticize somebody, if we lose to the Bills and wind up the 6th seed, or if we go into the playoffs one way or the other, either 2 seed or a 6 seed and lose, I'd love to be able to feed my more primitive emotions, be able to say, it was the owner's fault. It was the coach's fault. It was the quarterback's fault. It was this guy's fault or that guy's fault. But the fact is, this is the situation we're in. You can't expect these guys to win at this point with these injuries. I know everybody has injuries, but the teams that are going to go to the Super Bowl have minimized them the best and have other players that more than make up for them. So if you want to say that we should overcome injuries and you want to blame somebody, then blame the whole team. If we don't win, blame Tyreek, blame Tua, blame Ramsey, blame everybody, because everybody's not doing enough to make up for the guys we lost then. But the truth is that with the injuries we have, it's going to be very, very difficult to make a run. And we could talk about Chris Grier. As you see with Miami Kid, we could talk about Chris Grier. But what did Grier do? The worst thing Grier did was bring in guys with injury histories. But if you look at the roster, the depth on the roster, every bit of the roster, you can't blame Grier. It's a pretty good roster. Now, if Grier missed that other element, which was championship-hungry guys who perform well in dangerous situations, then yeah, Grier deserves blame too. Because he hasn't vetted guys enough to make sure they have that fifth gear when it's a playoff run time. When it's the end of the regular season. You haven't found guys that have that gear. And the injury-prone thing, yeah, if you build a roster full of injury-prone guys, you're going to probably wind up with some injuries. But this year was significantly bad. And even guys who aren't injury-prone get injured. Robert Hunt really never missed a game. Baker never missed a game. These guys got hurt. Sometimes you got to take the best player available. And if a guy is available in free agency because he has injuries, but he's still a really good player and you could get him and there's nobody else better to get, you got to go with him. A la Teron Armstead. And if a guy has potential and they're available in the draft and they're the best available in the draft at the position, you got to take them, a la Jalen Phillips. So I can't put it all on those guys. I can't put it all on Chris Grier because guys get hurt. That's just bad luck. But I can put something on McDaniel for having guys play in garbage time when we have a huge game coming up. Like, he talks all this junk about, oh, I want to preserve guys. I want to preserve guys for the epic goal for the postseason. But you have a looming game because you know you lost this game. Now you know you have a game for the division title on the line next week, and you don't preserve your guys by sitting them with 3 minutes left? That's nonsense. And Daniel Grassi says, I don't have a problem with Ross, but I don't like the love affair they have with Tua. I would like Kirk Cousins or Baker Mayfield at QB for next season. I can't count on Tua, and I like to. Come on, guys. Kirk Cousins, he doesn't succeed when the heat's on. Baker Mayfield, come on. That's what I'm trying to tell you. There's no easy fix. You can't just go out there and say, I'm going to replace Tua with this guy or that guy. That ain't going to get you to where you want to go. That's why I know no one wants to hear it. You want me to come on here and be blaming somebody. Like, it's a quarterback. It's Fangio. It's McDaniel. It's Grier. It's Ross. Bro, it's nobody. It's everybody. It's nobody and everybody at the same time. How's that? It's nobody's fault and it's everybody's fault. That's a fact. It's nobody's fault and it's everybody's fault. There's no easy fix. You can't go out and get rid of Tua and expect some other guy to be better in the clutch. All you can do is hope that Tua learns and develops into a guy who is better in the clutch because he obviously has natural gifts with everything else. And he's developed thus far. But here's another scary thing to ponder and worry about and think about. Here's another thing. Tua is not going to make it through every season like he did this season with minimal injuries. He's going to have another injury. And there's going to be another season that goes down the tubes because of it, which sucks. So it's just not good. There's going to be other issues with him. And I'm not monetized right now. So if you guys do want to show any love or any donation to keep this channel going, hit that Cash App. But we're reapplying for monetization Wednesday. So if you're in the building, hit subscribe. Hit subscribe. Any donations are appreciated. Click subscribe. Click like. This channel is going to stay with you, and it's not going to pull any punches. I'm not going to feed you nonsense. I'm not going to throw blood to the masses. I'm not going to throw one individual or the other or one unit under the bus. We are going to keep it real. This is, for logical Miami Dolphins fans. Everybody says they're a channel for real Miami Dolphins fans. This is a channel for logical Miami Dolphins fans. That's where we are. Logical Miami Dolphins fans. Logical. And the truth is, there's really no way to do anything of substance other than try your best to keep the guys we can keep. Try your best to elevate guys who can make up for some of the difference. And try to plug holes through the draft with the draft picks that we do have next year. Hope that by the time Chubb and Phillips come back next year, we're in a position to make a run and start clicking. And hope that we don't have other catastrophic injuries before they get back. Because Chubb and Phillips are going to be out for the beginning of next year. So we are not clicking on all cylinders next season as we go into it. We are not. That's a sad reality. Now, Daniel says next man up. Well, this week, you're going against the Bills team. You're going against a Bills team that has been struggling. They've won the last few games, and they were supposed to win the last few games, and they did. But they have kind of limped through them. New England played them tough. The Chargers almost beat them. They're beatable. We swept the other two division foes. You don't want to get swept by the Bills. We're at home. Our offense should be back to closer to full strength, I would hope. Hope you at least get Mostert back. The defense is going to be in trouble. Agba and Melvin Ingram have to step up in a way that they did not think they were going to have to be expected to step up. And AVG is going to have to play like a man on absolute fire just to keep us in the game. And then on offense, this is a primetime night game with the division title on the line. Tyreek Hill, you better catch the ball. Tua, you better stop throwing, better not throw any boneheaded interception. Just throw an interception because of a good play, whatever, fine. Better not throw any boneheaded interception. McDaniel, you better have the best game plan you've had in 2 years. You know this team. You've seen this team. This team has beaten you enough. They're a division foe. Everything's on the line. You better coach the best game of your career. You better coach the best game of your career. And then you just got to pray that we don't get even more injuries. And when you do that, and if you do that, You have a chance to win the division title. You win the division title, I still don't think you're making a Super Bowl run. This defense is too decimated, period. Period. This defense is too decimated. But you get the second seed. You've got 2 home games if you win the first one. 2 home games. Even with the injuries, you have a chance to win a game in the postseason. And why is winning a game in the postseason important? Well, we're going into next season limping. We're going into next season without some of our biggest contributors because we're not going to be able to pay them. We're going into next season without Phillips and without Chubb because their injuries are going to take much longer to recover. And you're going into the second year of probably a 3 to 4 year window where you actually have a chance to contend for a Super Bowl title. Winning a game in the postseason this year, even though it's unlikely you're going to go to the distance this year, given the injuries, is a huge character and experience builder for this franchise and for the culture of this team. So it's exceedingly important that you do your best to find a way to beat the Buffalo Bills on Sunday, because it provides you with a valuable opportunity to host a home playoff game and maybe get a W, which would be a huge character builder because next season is going to start with adversity. It's going to start with adversity. You are not going to have this defense and these defensive players going into next season, let alone finishing this season. And I don't necessarily expect Miami to win on Sunday. Thank you, Marlon, for the love. If you guys are in here and you haven't clicked subscribe yet, click subscribe, join Fury Fam. We've seen an unprecedented amount of members as there's been a hunger and appetite in the fan base of the Miami Dolphins for legitimate, objective, nuanced, and complex talk regarding the team, not just one single-minded issue speaking, going after one person or the other. This channel is going to keep it real, and I'm going to stick with you through thick and thin. I'm always going to be a Miami Dolphins fan. We're going to just deal with this through thick and thin. We're going to have to. But it doesn't mean I'm going to tell you what you want to hear. So, even though it's not necessarily going to be expected that you beat Buffalo on Sunday with all these injuries that we have, because we have a ridiculous amount of injuries, you have to go. You have to go all out from the windows to the friggin' walls to try to beat Buffalo on Sunday, because that division title is a learning experience. It's a stare. It's a step on the way to success. And that home playoff game is invaluable for experience purposes of the players. If you can somehow pull out a victory and then pull out a victory in the postseason, that teaches the team a hell of a lot about dealing with adversity, having a decimated defense because of injuries, a decimated offensive line, but overcoming it. And in order to overcome it, I'll say it one more time. Our best players have to contribute and excel enough to make up for what we've lost with injuries. Our best players have to bring enough talent and energy for 2. Tyreek Hill, you can't drop balls. Tua, you can't throw boneheaded picks. You can't get happy feet and not see the field. McDaniel, you can't waver. You have to know when to call the right plays, when to play the right guys, when to use your challenges things of that nature. When to use your timeouts, when to be aggressive before the half, when to try to beat the 2-minute warning, when to use the 2-minute warning. Those type of things show us. This was a show me season. This was a show me season. Show us that there's a reason to believe that at some point you can get it done. Show us that you can play through adversity. Show us that you can rise to the occasion. Show the fans that are going to be loud as hell in that stadium next Sunday night. Show them that there's a reason to pay for those tickets, to show up and to lose their voices for the rest of the work week, cheering for that defense that's decimated by injuries. Show us that you deserve some level of optimism. Show us that you deserve some level of faith from the fan base. Go out and show us. I know the chips are stacked against you. I know the injuries decimated the defense. I know it's tough. I know the Super Bowl dreams are pretty much by the wayside, but win the division. And then win a playoff game. I don't care anymore about how many injuries you have. You have guys that you say are superstars. Play like it. Play like it. Not against the Jets at 1. Not against the Panthers at 1. Do it to win the division. Even if you know deep down that your Super Bowl dreams are gone. Even if you know in your soul that the Super Bowl is out of reach and you had bad luck, play through it and win the division anyway. It builds character. If your defense is Swiss cheese and getting carved up by Josh Allen running all over the place, well, match him. Beat him, Tua. Beat him, Tyreek. Outwill him, Raheem. Come on. No excuses. Because if they fail and lose to the Bills and then lose first round of the playoffs, then nothing's changed. I'm telling you right now, I'm still going to be up here talking the offseason with you, talking the draft, talking contracts. And I'll disagree with the GM in the front office if they don't sign certain guys and bring them back. And I'll talk about that. And I'll bring that up. But I'm telling you right now, they're signing Tua. He's not going anywhere. They're not firing the coach, to my knowledge, although if you lose 2 in bad fashion, I don't know. It might be on the table. But the team's going to be the team. The only difference is going to be, did you build character and turn a corner in terms of really being that upper echelon team by playing through adversity and rising to the occasion? Something you did not do against Baltimore. Tua, Tyreek, Claypool, every one of them. Did you rise to the occasion anyway and fight through that crazy adversity to still win the division because it was gift wrap for you a couple weeks ago? Did you turn a corner? Did you turn a corner? Lucci's in the building. Shout out to my man, Lucci. Did you turn a corner and give us something to build on? Give us a reason to believe in you? Or did you once again take an excellent opportunity built up through an entire 4 months of the season, crumple it up, and flush it down the toilet. Because you faced a little bit of adversity in the form of rough injuries. And other things not going your way. And shout out to Shake too. I haven't followed the comments as well in here. I mean, shouts to everybody. Thanks for everybody being in here on this rough day for us Dolphins fans. Shouts to everybody in the building. Thank you for being with me. If you haven't done so yet, click subscribe. Let's continue to grow this channel. We're getting our advertising and stuff back up and running in a couple days. I'll stay here with you guys. It is what it is. So, that's it, man. That's it. How are we going to answer this? I'm not sugarcoating anything. I'm not going to sit here and be rah-rah, pom-poms out. John, what up, man? It's very rare. John comments on every video, but it's rare that I see him in the live chat. So good to see you in the live chat, John. Good to see you. I'm not going to be rah-rah with you guys, pretending that this team with these injuries is going to make a Super Bowl run. That's not what this channel's for. You're free to think that in your own mind. You're a fan. You could handle your fandom any way you want, but that's not what I'm telling you, and that's not what this channel's going to do. That's not what you're here for in this channel. Okay? That's not what you're here for in this channel. But I am going to tell you. That there's a chance to turn adversity and a season that's not probably going to turn out, barring some epic miracle, the way you thought it could for most of the season, and still getting something positive and some building block out of it. And the way to do that is to get a win. Color, what up? Get a win. Win the division. Set yourself up to win a playoff game. Your defense is not going to be what it was for the last couple months. There's no getting away from it. It's not going to be what it was. It's not going to be what it was. But you still can find a way to win. You can still find a way to win. And you should do it. And you need to do it. You absolutely need to do it. There's really not much else to it. But, you know, as I said earlier in the stream, that loss, you know, wouldn't have been that tough. I mean, imagine if we lost the same score. But now you got the guys fired up. You're going up against Buffalo next week, and you have a chance to go back into Baltimore if you make a run in the playoffs to give them back some of their own medicine. The problem is you lost Chubb when you already had Phillips down, and you lost X. And losing Chubb, who was playing like a man on fire, who was an integral part of that defense, is something that it cut you off at the kneecap so bad that it's tough, if you're a realistic person, to be optimistic about getting to where we want it to go. And that's what hurts so bad. And that's where, yeah, you can't predict it if you're Mike McDaniel, but there's still no reason to have guys in there. And you've got Emmanuel Ogbah sitting on the bench. You signed Melvin Ingram. So maybe they got something left in the tank. Maybe they got something in the tank. And we're going to see very soon. But I'm not giving a pass just because of the injuries. I don't expect wins. But if you really want to convince me that you are a team that can go the distance in the next couple of years, you better have a better showing than just getting beat the next 2 weeks and just going out like a lamb after starting the season like a lion like that. Am I confident in that? No. No. I'm not. How can you be? And somebody's in here saying that Hard Knocks jinxed our season. I'm not usually a believer in that kind of stuff, but I mean, damn. As soon as Hard Knocks came in, we just started going down like flies. Every game, one of our main players got injured. So it's been brutal. I do like Hard Knocks. I like watching it. So it's just a shame all around if you're a Dolphins fan that we're going through it this year this way. It's a shame all around. I don't know what else you could say about it. It's a shame all around. And like I said, there's really no one to blame, and there's also everyone to blame. It needs to be so much better. It needs to be so much better than it has been. And once the offseason gets here, we'll talk about the offseason. I know I already kind of touched on the offseason. I touched on next season because you better get used to the reality. You better get used to the reality that this defense is handicapped for the foreseeable future, and it goes beyond just this season. We're going into next season handicapped at defense. At a bare minimum handicapped. We could be decimated at defense if we lose these key free agents, every one of them. So, I'm just here to tell you. I'm not here to give you hope or give you pessimism. I'm just here to tell you. PW says, why, double why is Greer still working? I mean, Greer's put together a pretty good team. But other than some irrational curse or something, I don't know what else to pin this on because it's so bad and it happens every year. It's the Twilight Zone. It's Groundhog's Day every year. Every year, it's a Twilight Zone. This iteration of the Miami Dolphins, whether you like it or not, is here to stay. This quarterback, this front office, it just remains to be seen whether they can get it done. And I'm telling you, it's never going to be one of those years where we start off. And that's why I tell you, never count my chickens. I'm never going to count my chickens, not with this team. It's not one of those seasons where we start off and we're knowing that we're going to make a Super Bowl run, or we're so primed that we're going to walk into the Super Bowl. We're gunning for the 1 or 2 seed from the beginning. This is always going to be a team where we're competitive in the regular season, where we are setting ourselves up for a postseason appearance, and where you're hoping that one of those seasons we start to click at the right time, we stay relatively healthy, and the path opens up for us that particular season to make a run to the Super Bowl. And I don't think it'll be an expected season. It'll probably come in a season where things aren't looking that great. It could be next season because we're going to go into next season hobbled in defense. And maybe those guys come back healthy later in the year and we make a run. That's a possibility. And Card Finn says maybe AVG steps up again. I think AVG will step up. I think AVG has stepped up. I think the problem is when you don't have somebody on the other side as talented as Bradley Chubb, it's going to be tough because they can spend more attention and give more attention to AVG, and it doesn't allow him to be opened up as much for his opportunities. You have somebody like Agba, you have Melvin Ingram. If they can play out of their minds for 1 or 2 games and help us turn this corner and win a game in the postseason, host a home playoff game, win a division title, the first division title since 2008, then there's an opportunity. There's an opportunity to have a good learning experience that could benefit us in one of those subsequent years where we might have a run. And that's just what it is. And P Double says it seems the Finns have mentally soft guys when things go wrong. I got to agree on that. It seems like when the adversity is high and when things are frustrating, sometimes you see Tua just start throwing the ball into places he shouldn't throw it into. You just see him starting to really squeeze it in there when he shouldn't do it. And just saying, F it, pick a guy, let it fly, and not in the right way, not in a good way. And you see guys like Tyreek, everybody handles adversity in their own way, and everybody handles, just like everybody handles grief in their own way. Everybody handles everything in their own way. And there is something to be said in football, and I've been around people who live their life by football, get paid by football professionals. And their mentalities, not only on the football field, but in life are, well, you can only control what's ahead of you. You can't worry about what just happened. And you got to admire that mentality. So I'm not necessarily criticizing Tyreek off jump that he smiled at dropping a pass because, he's got to wait for the next opportunity. But you don't love to see a guy who's that high up in the list of superstar players for this team drop a wide open touchdown pass in a pivotal game at a pivotal time and just kind of laugh it off and then not go out and redeem and have an epic game after that. Chase Claypool seemed more mad about dropping the pass than Tyreek did. Bradley Chubb, for all his nonsense of throwing the helmet on the ground, at least he cared. And now that young man is out for probably about a year. We won't be seeing him till it's about to turn into 2025. And Andrew's saying Tyreek is our best player, and you mentioned him today more than anyone else than Tua. Yeah, I mean, of course, he's our best player, bro, and he screwed up in crunch time. Him and Tua. You got to rely on your best players. You know who else is getting mentioned a lot in Ravens circles? Lamar Jackson. Because guess what? He showed out. He's their best player, and he acted like it. He just won MVP. Yeah, you guys want to give passes all day, then go ahead and do it. Maybe guys like you are the reason that the team can't succeed in December because everything's a free pass. Everything's fine. Nothing's fine. Like the dog in the meme with the fire burning around you, just saying, this is fine. This is not fine. This is not fine. You're one of those people who are looking for some particular person to blame. The defense is certainly to blame. But our players, our best players, did not rise to the occasion. That includes defensive players. Christian Wilkins, Jalen Ramsey. I said that. I went through it. I named them all. Said you can't blame anybody. You can't blame nobody. I mean, yes, I told you. I don't know what the issue is. I'm waiting for our superstar players who get paid the most, who eat up the most salary cap to make a difference in the biggest games. Maybe I'm nuts. Maybe I'm way off the reservation for expecting those things. I don't know. Maybe I'm crazy. Maybe your highest paid best player should win you games when it counts. It's just crazy. And yeah, PTSD, of course, we all have it. I mean, who was here for the 94 Chargers game? Playoff game. I was here for all those years. The 62-7 drubbing by Jacksonville, Marino's last game. All those runs in the 90s, early 90s with Chula and Marino, late 90s and early 2000s with Jimmy Johnson, that awesome defense. Jason Taylor, Zach Thomas, Hall of Fame guys. What happened every single year? Same thing that's happened in the last 2 years to us. And Color says, Ross calls that a captured customer. Yeah, it's true. That's the thing, right? People don't understand this is also a business. And if you stay competitive in the regular season and you give the fans something to have fun with, you're going to sell tickets, you're going to sell merchandise. I don't have any problem with that. That's part of the job. It's part of the business. You got to stay relevant. And hey, let's face it, I'd rather be this level. I'd rather be this level than the level we were under Gase or the level we were for most years under, previous regimes like Sperano, RIP. But that doesn't mean I'm satisfied with this. That doesn't mean that this isn't a huge letdown. This doesn't mean that we can want more. This doesn't mean we can't talk about and vent our frustrations and vent our stress. We can do that. We can vent our frustrations and we can vent our stress. And this guy, AB, like, whoever don't want to spend money on tickets, don't go to the games. Nobody cares. Ross is a billionaire. Dude, who cares? Who cares? That's his prerogative and we have our prerogatives, okay? Like, what is, I don't understand. You guys, I don't understand that. You guys need to see a Bronx Tale. Some of these fans need to see a Bronx Tale. Where Sonny says, does Mickey Mantle pay your bills? Hey, pay your taxes? You guys getting paid by the Miami Dolphins franchise? Because why else are you just every day, all day going down with some kind of fake idea of loyalty? You think these guys are going to bring you into the locker room, take you out to dinner, introduce you to their friends, give you passes to the sideline? What are you talking about? Yeah, and I agree with you, Color. I totally agree with you. I was just saying, part of that is, hey, that's part of the business, but doesn't mean we have to be satisfied on shows like this. You don't like it, don't watch them. All right, AB. I mean, you could go down with whatever sense of loyalty you think you have. They don't have it to you, I assure you. So, whatever. Like, okay. Watch out for this guy. Doesn't make any sense. At the end of the day, you're all right about, vocal leaders, actions speak louder than words. Actions speak louder than words. These guys got to get it done on the field. And MJWS Larry, do you think the Dolphins pick up anybody at outside linebacker? And thanks for the question, brother. I mean, I think you gotta. Do you go back to the well and re-sign JPP because he was in the system for a couple weeks, and you liked what you saw initially to back up Melvin Ingram? They obviously liked Melvin Ingram first. And they liked him enough to bring him in. They like Ingram a little better. Ingram was here last year, and Ingram looks like he's already getting reps. So I think Ingram's gonna start, or Agba. First of all, to answer your question, they're gonna elevate Agba back to the active roster. He's not gonna be inactive again. He's gonna rotate in, and I see him and Ingram rotating on that side. And you're going to have AVG on the other side. And then you're probably going to go back to the well and call up JPP again because they liked him enough to have him on. Now, I don't know if he got cut because he really wasn't cutting it, no pun intended, and he really wasn't doing what he needed to do. And that's why they parted ways with him and won't be interested in bringing him back. Or maybe they simply released him because they needed a spot for Melvin Ingram, who they already like, who they already know, who was already on the team. And if JPP is still around, maybe you go back to the well, you bring him back for depth's sake. But I think Agba, and for the time being, it's going to be Agba and Ingram who are going to rotate and try to fill in for Chubb. And I'm telling you, they're not going to make up for Chubb. We just went from like an elite pass rush with Phillips and Chubb, with AVG stepping in here and there and playing inside, to a below average pass rush with, two guys that are used to be real good, but are older now in Ingram and in Agba on one side, and AVG, who's really good, ton of heart, talented kid, but isn't, necessarily at the pinnacle of pass rushing natural talent on the other side. But I'm not knocking AVG at all. I mean, AVG is a great player, and I hope they re-sign him. But he's got to do what's best for him in the offseason, and he's primed to get paid. I would like for them to go back and pick JPP back up, quite frankly, just as a depth piece. You know, and I'd like to see Agba and I'd like to see Ingram. You know, they might not be able to do it for the duration of a postseason run, for a Super Bowl run. They might not be able to do it for the duration of a season. But if those two guys can rise to the occasion just for 2 games to get us a division title and get us a playoff win, that's more than enough. And I think it would say a lot about the defensive coaching staff, the coaching staff in general, and the culture of this team if they were able to do something like that. Again, the reason I'm so disappointed and depressed is less to do with the loss to the Ravens and much more to do with the injuries to X and Chubb. It's just brutal. We could pick those guys up too. I mean, there's guys out there we could pick up. I just think they already went and got a guy in JPP. That's who they would probably go back after. But hey, those guys are possible. They're going to pick somebody up. They're going to work people out. We know that. And whoever they like in the workouts the best is probably going to get the job. But they're definitely going to do that. They're definitely going to do that. And 72 undefeated says, you know, you're not getting a better roster than you get now. I mean, that's true. That's what I've been saying. We have to pay Tua, and that's going to naturally affect down the road how many of these guys we can keep, and we're not going to be able to keep them all. This season is so disappointing because, you know, bad luck with the injuries and then, you know, not great play. You beat KC by not fumbling at the end of that game or throwing that knuckle pass or running the wrong route, whoever's fault it was. The season looks different right now. You know, you beat Tennessee. You don't let them come back and score 2 touchdowns on you inside of 2 minutes when you also can't sustain a drive on offense. And the season looks different right now. And that Tennessee loss is a perfect example of what I've been talking about. Blame nobody, blame everybody. It wasn't just Tua. It wasn't just the defense. The defense lets up 2 touchdowns, but the defense did a lot of good things that game. But then Tua and the offense also can't get a first down to just end the game. It's everybody's fault. We haven't really played complementary, complete football in these games. And now that the end of the season's here, it's coming back. It's coming home to roost. It's coming to fruition that those things are going to bite us in the butt. And those things are going to bite us in the butt. Guys, if you're in here and you haven't click subscribe. We've been making a ton of headway for the new year. Let's start the new year off on a good foot. The channel's up and running. The channel is growing. The channel is going forward. We love and appreciate you being here. Click that subscribe button. Let's continue to grow it. Click that subscribe button. Let's go. Let's go. And the question was, do I feel Tua is Tannehill 2.0? No, I think Tua is better than Tannehill. Tua is better than Tannehill. Tua is better than Tanny. But is he really good? Is he really going to get us to the promised land? I don't know. Hasn't looked that way so far. And Phil says, stop building a team of players that get hurt. Yeah, I mean, that's a valid criticism. It's a valid criticism. Guys get hurt, though, everywhere, you know. Even Robert Hunt. He hasn't been hurt. Baker has a freak injury. So you could build a team with all healthy guys, still have the injury bug. But I agree. You know, we signed a lot of injury-prone players, and now they're injured, and we're so surprised. No reason to be surprised by that, you know. No reason to be surprised by it. It's obvious why that happened. Crazy Dolphin says we got to make do with what we have. We have a lot of linebackers on the team. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. We need to try to, you know, I don't care. I don't care how many injuries you have. I don't expect to win. And you're right, Color. He is more accomplished. He was actually more accomplished once he went to Tennessee, which maybe is no surprise given to how tough they play and their style of play and their style of defense. You know? And I don't know if you put Herbert in the system. I don't know. I don't think Herbert's is accurate. He's obviously gets injured too. I don't know. I don't know about this Herbert comparison anymore because he hasn't done much either. So, you know, you could say, oh, he has worse coaching, but how good is McDaniel? We don't really know. So the whole thing is tough. You know, the whole thing is tough. Like I can't blame one guy one way or the other. And if Tua is Chad Pennington, I mean, that can get us somewhere, but you need all your guys around him to show up and play really well. You know, So, it doesn't matter at this point, right? Like, Tua is your guy. You're not getting rid of him unless he decides to retire on his own, like Andrew Luck. Unless he decides to leave, or he gets a catastrophic injury or something that just really severely limits his ability to go forward. I mean, Tua is the guy because he's a top 5 statistical quarterback in the league. Does that guarantee you championships? No. But no NFL team is in the business of jettisoning top 5 statistical quarterbacks, because there's no guarantee the next guy you pick up is also going to get you to the championship, let alone still be a top 5 statistical quarterback. The fact is that where the Miami Dolphins are and where they're going to be for this foreseeable future is a good regular season team that tries to position itself to get into the postseason every year and hope that one year the stars align, the injuries are minimal, other teams are down, and the Dolphins are in a good position to click at the right time and make a Super Bowl run. And again, if you look at teams like the Ravens, and we'll see if they go the distance this year, but they are perennial postseason contenders. They've lost, they've choked, but they're perennial postseason contenders. And this year, it finally looks like they're clicking at the right time. They now have home field advantage, and it doesn't look like any team in the AFC can really beat them. Although it can happen. The Cleveland could beat them. KC could beat them. Who knows? But at the end of the day, that's who the team's going to be. That's who the team's going to be. We are running it back with this team for the foreseeable future, and we have a chance with this team for the foreseeable future. But I am not confident in this team for the foreseeable future winning a Super Bowl. This platform's great. I've always been a fan. I like traveling to the games. I like going to the practices. I like watching the games. I like wearing the gear. I got some of the flyest gear out there. If you haven't seen me, some of the dopest Dolphins gear. I love running this channel. I love talking football. I mean, I'm going to be here. But I don't have faith because they haven't given me any reason to have faith. And logically, I'm telling you that with these injuries to the defense, we are going to struggle. We're done this year as far as Super Bowl aspirations, unless some miracle happens. And we're going into next year handicapped in defense because we're not going to have the guys. It's plain and simple. We're not going to have the guys. These guys are going to be out for a year. Chubb ain't coming back till late next season. And even when he does late next season, he's not going to be fully up to speed. That's just the truth. I'm telling you right now. And Color, you make a good point. Color makes a good point. Says the issue is coaching. We have a fetish for new men. Ever since Ross got here, he's really wanted to hone in on and hire these offensive innovators. These guys that supposedly are offensive gurus that have this certain Poindexter-ish personality, and he's infatuated with them. Now, Mike McDaniel, when you see Hard Knocks and you watch Hard Knocks, you see that Mike McDaniel is more of a leader, more vocal, more tough than I think we give him credit for just watching the press conferences. At the same time, Mike McDaniel has not proven that he can go up against the upper tier and upper echelon of coaches and win. And, he hasn't proven that he's much more beyond a very good play designer pregame. However, he's got the team into the playoffs in back-to-back seasons. And he's, done a pretty decent job as far as statistics and being a winning team. So it cuts both ways. It cuts both ways with McDaniel. And yeah, they can cut X and they can cut Tehran. You're right. But then it just creates more holes, which is why I'm saying that I'm not really encouraged per se by what we're looking at right now as a team, because, there's a lot of question marks. This season was a real good chance to really get the 1 seed and to have the inside track at trying to reach a Super Bowl. But that's not going to happen now. And, next season, every season's different. It's like a whole new thing. It's a whole new team. We're not going to go in there with the same team next year. And I wouldn't say Miami was in the dumps. I mean, I wouldn't say that because Flores was like a 500 coach. Gase made the playoffs 1 year, and then he was like a mediocre team. Dolphins, aside from 2007, have never really been a bottom-of-the-barrel franchise. They've always been mediocre. They've always been middle of the pack or really good. The good days are long behind us, but this year we were good. So I think McDaniel did a good job elevating us from mediocre to good, but he hasn't elevated us to great yet. So I wouldn't say he's done a great job. I'd say he's done a good job. You know, we were a mediocre team and he made us a good team, but we're not a great team. Now, can he get there to get us to be a great team? Maybe. But like Mr. Finsider says, McDaniel might be on the hot seat if we lose the next 2 games. Let's be real. Yeah, you lose the next 2 games and there's no way that you can't at least think about the possibility that he's melted down in 2 seasons. And yeah, that's Mike. See, that's the type of thing I'm talking about, right? That's a good point. I want to draw some attention to this. This is the type of thing that, while I'm not trying to sell you guys false hope, this is the kind of thing that I'm telling you about resiliency of the guys inside the locker room. They got to find something. They got to dig deep and find a way to beat Buffalo despite all these injuries and these problems. They gotta really dig deep, because say Cleveland does beat Baltimore in the postseason, and we are the number 2 seed. Well, now all of a sudden you got a home AFC Championship game if you can get through the first 2. And you almost do have as if you had the 1 seed. Now, I'm not saying it's going to happen. I still think our limitations on defense are going to thwart our ability to get to the Super Bowl. I'm not going to lie to you. But this is why this team has to come out and win this game against Buffalo, despite the problems they have. They really do. And I'm not saying they're going to win, Xavier. I'm saying I don't expect a win. But I'm saying if they want to show me something and they want to really live up to all the hype they had all year, and they want to live up to saying they're resilient and they focus on the task at hand and the one game at a time, and if these superstar players can rise to the occasion and make up some of the slack of the injuries, and if they want to show us that they're capable of that, then they're going to have to win on Sunday. Because that sets up the 2 seed, which, again, I don't have a ton of faith in this team making a run given these injuries. I just don't. That Chubb injury and that X injury to me were catastrophic because of what it does to our defense and our ability to get facts to get pressure on the quarterback. Thank you, Papa Hog. Always appreciated. If you guys haven't done so yet, click subscribe so I can keep just keeping it real on this channel. Click subscribe. Smash it. Just smash that subscribe button if you're in the building right now. You're sitting there, you're chilling. Just find it right here. Click it right here. Click subscribe and becoming a Fury fan member. We're bringing back the monetization, the super chats, all that very soon. And I'm always here with you guys. I'm going to stay here with you guys to talk through the thick and thin. Yeah, and injuries are the only limiting factor I see in the playoffs. That's a huge limiting factor. I mean, that's the biggest limiting factor you could have, I think. I think it's unrealistic to think that this team's going to make a run in the playoffs. But that being said, all you need to do is win on Sunday and you get a 2 seed, which really, if there was ever going to be a miracle in the playoffs, if there was ever going to be a chance for you to go deeper into the playoffs than expected given the injuries, the best way to do that would be to win on Sunday to get the 2 seed the best opportunity you're going to have with your limitations given the injuries is going to be a high seed. That's the only way you're really going to have a chance to be in the top seed, is to be a number 2 seed. So you really need to try to win this game. You got to give it your all. This is not just, we're gonna wait till next week to give it our all when we're in the postseason already, because you're gonna be traveling to somewhere like KC and it ain't gonna be very fun. You got to try to go in and give it your all this week so that you're hosting a home game and you're hosting a team that you have a chance of beating. And we can blame Greer, we can blame Ross. Like I said, it's everybody's fault and it's nobody's fault. All I know is that the fans are suffering. So are the players. But like I said, the players get to go home to platforms, to beautiful homes, to nice paychecks. And we just get to go back into the long, dark winter and off season and into next year with a hobbled team. It's not as fun as fans. It's not as fun as fans. It's just not. And Ryan says, you guys never had a chance anyway. Tua ain't that guy. Tua is a good quarterback. Is he that guy in clutch December games? Not yet. Xavier says they cut Gesicki and he's better than any of the slot wide receivers we have on the roster. Great red zone target. Yeah, I mean, Gesicki was a really good red zone target, and I think he could have helped us, especially in the last few weeks when we've been struggling in the red zone. But you know, he didn't fit the offense, and you got to be honest. You know, tight end's another luxury upgrade we could have used in the offseason, but given all these injuries, we're probably not going to be able to invest much in. Could have maybe tried to gone after Laporta or somebody else, but no, we couldn't have gotten them. So Smythe has been serviceable. I mean, look at him the last couple of weeks when we got him involved. He's been serviceable, and he's a serviceable blocker. So, you know, the thing with Gesicki is it's not that we didn't like Gesicki or that we wouldn't have loved to keep him, but the money Gesicki would have wanted. You think we're going to have some cap problems or we have money problems now. Just think about the problems that we would have if we had signed Gesicki. We can't keep everybody. And guys like him who don't really fit the system, even though they're cool players, good guys, you can't afford to pay them the money they want to be paid because you just can't afford it. You know? Yeah, Fin fans have been suffering for decades. And Carlos says Trent Dilfer won a Super Bowl, Marino didn't. Look, none of that matters, right? Because Marino got to a Super Bowl and he lost it when he got there. Dilfer got to a Super Bowl and he won it when he was there. And those guys, you either have a Dilfer type guy or a Marino type guy with a team that's not as good, right? You're either going to have a super talented quarterback like Marino with a team that's subpar, or a great team with a mediocre quarterback. And when you're in either one of those situations, you always have a chance to win, but it's slim. It's way slimmer, right? Your best chance to win is to have a great quarterback with a solid team, like the Chiefs, like the Patriots all those years, you know, like the 49ers, like Baltimore right now. That defense is amazing, and now Lamar's playing at a really high level to top it off, and they added guys like Zay Flowers who are difference makers in the offense. And now you are not just hoping and praying that something goes your way. You actually have it. Now, the way Miami's trying to build its roster, and this is how they're going to keep doing it, whether they succeed or not, is a guy like Tua, who statistically is much better than just mediocre and is much better than just average, but is not great yet in those clutch situations, but trying to build a great team around him so that they have that opportunity to have a very good quarterback and a great team around him. You know. So, and I mean, so Gesicki got 4.5. I mean, I guess they could have kept him in place of Berrios. I mean, it's only $1 million. So, good point. Good point. I don't know what they're going to do next year with these guys. I don't know how they're going to structure this roster next year with the issues we're facing. And the fact is that, in my opinion, everybody, and that includes Tua, because Tom Brady did it, everybody, and that includes Tua, if they want to have a chance to win a chip with the Miami Dolphins, and if they care at all about the Miami Dolphins, then they're going to have to take a little bit of a hometown discount. And with no taxes, no state taxes in the state of Florida, if they take that home, if they give us that hometown discount, not a crazy discount, but just a couple bucks, we'll be able to keep a lot more guys. And if they don't, if they all want their max contracts, well, then we know where their loyalty is. It ain't to Miami. It ain't to us. And they're going to be on their way, and it's going to be harder for this team to continue to have an open window with all those guys getting paid that much. We're not going to be able to do it. It would be great if we got the 2 seed and hosted Indianapolis. That would be, in my opinion, the ideal situation. I'm not confident because I'm being honest, being realistic. These injuries on defense are troubling. I can't be confident that we're going to win with these injuries. But the only way forward is to win this game. You lose this game, and I hear you, St. Michael, the NFLPA is never going to let them take a hometown discount. I mean, not something absurd, but something that makes sense with the taxes. Because otherwise, this team's window is rapidly closing. And like I said, if next year is another bite at the apple, it's not looking good with these injuries because these guys aren't coming back. Pass rush is such a huge part of today's game. You lose Jalen Phillips and you lose Bradley Chubb and you lose them for the beginning of next season, you're not going into the season with a lot of promise because pass rush is such a big part of this league. Such a big part of this league. Raven fan for life. Tua is your biggest problem. He sucks. If y'all pay Tua, you're going to suck for a long, long time. Well, bro, let's see Lamar Jackson get it done in the playoffs before you start talking, okay? And Lamar Jackson, up until this year, was a very good player with great legs, but he wasn't necessarily an elite quarterback passing the ball. He is now. He's the MVP. He did a great job yesterday. I think he's a great player. I like him. He's an awesome player. And I think he will get it done. I think he will go to the Super Bowl this year. But before he does, man, I wouldn't be starting to say that Tua just flat out sucks. Okay? He doesn't suck. He may not be the guy to get it done in the postseason. But I don't think he sucks. And until Lamar gets it done in the postseason, I think we got the same problem. So I don't count my chickens on this show. Anybody who watches this show knows I don't count my chickens before they hatch. Don't count your chickens. One thing I don't do is talk junk before the season's over because I already know it's going to bite me in the butt. Like, I got plenty to say about the Jets and Aaron Rodgers and all that, but I didn't say it after the game we beat them because I already know we're going to have an ass whooping in store for us, which we did yesterday. So I'm not about to talk until the season's over. Carlos says when we get the 2 seed, we can host the Steelers, Jags, or Bills. Okay, so we can't host the Colts. So, honestly, bro, I'll take any of them at home, except I really would rather not play the Bills. I'll take the Steelers or Jags at home any day. Any day. I really would. Any day. I think that's ideal at this point. I don't know if it will get the distance, like I said. It's going to be tough for us to go to the distance. But that's the best situation we could possibly hope for at this point. And Color says we need a closer. You're damn right we need a closer. And right now, Tua, Tyreek, all these guys have not proven to be closers. The only one who's proven to be able to be a closer here and there is, Jason Sanders. Even though he's struggled the last couple. I mean, he's the only one that's been a real closer and beaten Dallas. Never pay a QB that needs $500 million of talent around him to win. It will destroy the franchise for years. Yeah, that I agree with. That's what I'm saying. I agree with that. That's the problem. But I don't see any way out of it. I agree with you, Raven for life. I just don't see any way out of it because you can't get rid of a top 10 QB in this league. And if he's demanding top money and he doesn't want to take any kind of fair deal, then I don't know what to do. Hopefully, all this, everybody promotes Tua as a nice guy, the nicest guy ever, virtuous, all that. Well, if he is, then he'll know his actual value given the fact that he struggled in big games, given the fact that the Dolphins have salary cap issues and he needs a team around him. And if he really cares about winning a chip and he really has all this great integrity, all you guys preach that he does, then I think he'll be fair in negotiations. And if he's just balls to the wall in negotiations and he's driving a hard bargain, I think it's a little bit harder to keep assigning him all this praise all the time. It gets a little ridiculous, doesn't it? Closer to 2 and we can all become baseball fans. Yeah, Color, I can see that. I can see that. Yeah, and Kevin, that might be true. That might be true. I don't know. We don't know. We'll never know. We'll never know who else you put on this team and what they could do with this team. I do know that no matter what people say, last year there were a couple people who thought Teddy B and thought Skyler could do what Tua did because the team was so stacked, and they didn't. And they weren't able to do the same things. And by the way, Tyreek Hill's numbers didn't look as good with Mahomes as they do with Tua. So I'm not a Tua near at all. I've never been. I started off as really a Tua naysayer because I didn't believe in a lot of the skill set and the injury prone and the height and all these issues. But looking at it objectively and looking at it honestly, Tua's been pretty good, and other guys have not been able to do what he's able to do in the offense. And I'm not saying he's a world beater. I'm not saying he's a top quarterback, a number one quarterback in the league. I'm not saying he's a championship quarterback because we haven't seen it yet, but he is a upper tier quarterback in the league. And when you take a gamble to get rid of an upper tier quarterback, you don't know what you're going to get. Because even when you go after guys who have won in the past, like Russell Wilson, it can still backfire on you. So it's just not a feasible thing to do for the Finns not to bring Tua back. And that's why I think it's going to happen regardless. And that's not me saying one way or the other that I agree or disagree. That's just what it is. And I'm not in the business of telling you guys things that you want to hear that's not going to happen just to get clicks or to get, make people feel better. I'm telling you, they're going to sign them. They're going to pay them. And that's that. And the fact is that, like Culler was saying earlier about positive guys and those guys who buy in and constantly buy tickets and buy merchandise and all this stuff, at the end of the day, those guys, they are the Dolphins front office is well aware of the fact that Tua sells tickets and Tua sells merchandise. And he's not, as long as it's not a burning trash fire, a dumpster fire, as long as we're in the postseason every year and we're winning in the regular season, they're not going to get rid of him. That's just the reality. That's just, I'm just telling you what they're going to do. I'm not saying I agree with it or disagree with it. I'm just telling you that's what they're going to do. And there's no way out of that. No way out of that. Period. Yeah. I mean, what do you want me to do, though? What do you want them to do? We only beat bad teams. We did beat the Cowboys. They're a good team. But at the end of the day, guys, it doesn't matter. Like, that's the thing, too. What do you want them to do? Who do you want them to get? Who do you want them to get? Until the opportunity comes along to get somebody that's a bona fide winner, you're just going to move off them right now? That'd be a bold move. I guess, yeah. Hunts, to be real. That's what I'm talking about. And G-Man the Dolphin says, draft another QB. Fine. You drafted Skyler. You don't think Skyler can be the guy? Okay, draft another one. You're not going to draft one of the top QBs because you don't have a pick. You're not going to have a pick at the top. So you better draft a guy you like, but they did that with Skyler. They're developing Skyler, bringing him along. You like a guy in the draft, you think he's promising, you want to take him in the second round, go ahead. I'm not against that. Go ahead. Yeah, I'm down with drafting one every year till somebody works out. I am. Now, Mudbone saying Zach Wilson could. I mean, I'm not going to knock Lamar. So you got to understand, the way these games work is yeah, guys were wide open downfield for Lamar to throw to, but you can't negate what Lamar brings to the table with his ability to run. He's run all year, which scares defenses. So the defenses we're playing to try to mitigate his rushing ability is what opened up guys down the field. So you can't say Zach would have done it because we wouldn't have necessarily had been trying to contain Zach the same way we're trying to contain Lamar. And it's obvious because we played Zach and we absolutely destroyed him. I know his line was down, but I'm just saying. It is what it is. But guys, if you haven't done so yet, click subscribe, join the Fury fam. We're coming back. Now, we're here tomorrow night at 7 p.m. For a panel from me, Lucci, Shake, and Greg. We're on here Tuesday night at 7, so join us tomorrow night at 7 for the live show with those guys. We're on every Tuesday night at 7. Thursday is a happy hour with Shake and Lucci. They're going to talk about the games that matter to us. We're going to preview the game coming up. And I'm always punching in. I'm going to start trying to do this Monday live show more and more frequently. We're going to do something. I'm going to do something specific for the offseason. These guys are going to keep going through the offseason. I'm sure In the Blender with Shake is going to be back for the offseason. So if you haven't yet subscribed to Phin-Addict Fury, that's the channel here, click subscribe because there's a lot more content than just me talking. Click subscribe overall. Click like. And once again, any donations or anything like that is appreciated. Any social media follows are all appreciated. Make sure you share the channel with your friends. If you like that I'm spitting the facts here, I think this channel really is a unique channel compared to some other ones. I really do think we're doing something a little bit here differently than other teams have done. Not other teams, other channels have done and are doing. And I'm a fan of all those channels too. But make sure you subscribe here to this channel and join me for more content soon. It's been an absolute pleasure chilling with you guys this afternoon, trying to just get all our emotions out. Look, my final thought is you've got to find a way. Melvin Ingram, Agba, rotating, AVG playing out of his mind, putting more guys in the box, trying something different in his own, whatever it is. We've got to dig deep and find a way to win the division title. Because if for nothing else, it'll be a huge step for the culture of this franchise to win a division title, get a home playoff game, and try to win one. I still don't like the prospects for the postseason with these injuries. I still don't like how next year is looking with these injuries. But we'll cross that bridge when we get there. We'll cross that bridge at the end of the season. Devastating loss on so many levels. Blame everybody, blame nobody. And William, the answer is no. I think he might get the Patriots head coaching job. But no excuses. Blame everybody, blame nobody. Beat the Bills. And regardless of the injuries, then we have something to talk about in the postseason, something that means something. Give the fans something to latch onto after such a promising season that seems like it's crashing down once again. And if you want real talk, nuanced talk, complexities, not blaming one person or the other, not one-sided, not Tua hater, not a Tua lover, just a real dude who can talk about things other than just the quarterback. Subscribe to Phin-Addict Fury with Larry K. Join me when I'm live. Join us tomorrow night at 7. And I hope everybody has an absolutely amazing New Year's Day and a great year in general. I'll be back here soon to talk to all of you. Click subscribe, man. Despite what they put us through, fins up. Despite what they put us through. And Larry K. out. See you next time. I know you heard me on the radio flexing. She loved the sound of my voice. It's the